Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha, Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Asto Tarashatashi Shimati Stavangre Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Skaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Yamuna Maya Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to all the assembled devotees, all glories to all the assembled devotees, all glories to all the assembled devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today, there's noises of chainsaws outside the window. And the window's already closed. So hopefully it's not disturbing you. We're reading from Bhagavad-gita, chapter 1, text 31. Natra Shreyo Nupashami Hatva Swajanam Ahave Na Kankshe Vijayam Krishna Nacha Rajam Sukhanicha Nacha Shreyo Nupashami Hatva Swajanam Ahave Nakankshe Vijayam Krishna Nacha Rajam Sukhanicha. So word by word. Na, nor, cha, also. Shreyaha, good. Anupashami, do I foresee. Hatva, by killing. Swajanam, own kinsman. Ahave, in the fight. Na, nor. Kangshe, do I desire. Vijayam, victory. Krishna, O Krishna. Na, nor. Cha, also. Rajam, kingdom. Sukhani, happiness thereof. Cha, also. Translation. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman in this battle. Nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu, or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen, there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he's not willing to fight. Just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life in frustration. But as a kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the kshatriyas cannot engage himself in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lies in fighting with his cousins and brothers and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go to the forest to live a secluded life. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Om Jnana Tamarandasa Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshu Amritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachayani Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so let's put this over here. Arjuna is in a predicament here, and he's in a situation where he feels that he just can't win. I believe it was Banu Swami, or maybe it was Prahlada Swami. We're talking about how in this situation Arjuna was just seeing lose everywhere. And then, of course, ultimately Krishna turns everything around and shows how everything is win-win. So here we are in the situation at the beginning of Bhagavad-gita, beginning of the Battle of Kurukshetra, where Arjuna is, they would say, second-guessing himself, where Arjuna is having doubts, and he's wondering, am I doing the right thing? Is this really the best thing to do in this situation? So it's something we can all relate to. We've all been in a situation where we have to make a decision, or we find ourselves in a situation where we wonder, am I doing the right thing? What will the outcome be? Is this really what I want? Is this really the right thing? And we can see here that in this situation, Arjuna is looking and he's seeing that, okay, so in this battle, I have to kill my relatives. And even if I win this battle, how can I be happy? It's saying here, that if it means that I have to kill my relatives, then I'd rather just not fight, because killing the relatives is just wrong, and it feels bad. And also, it's mentioning that any victory, kingdom, or happiness. I believe it's in the coming verses. Let's just jump back a second so we can get the overview here. Yeah, so the next verse is where Arjuna is saying that even if I do win, what will be the happiness that will come from it if all the people that I want to enjoy it with are gone? And also there may be a feeling in war, and we saw that this was the feeling of Yudhisthira Maharaj after the Battle of Kurukshetra. He felt guilty that he was responsible for the death of innocent people. Or maybe they weren't innocent, but he was guilty of causing a lot of suffering. That people were killed, widows, were left without their husbands, and so on. Yeah, so this is the particular point that we're at here, where Arjuna is just like, nah, I just don't think it's worth it. So this is the continuation through here. And then Arjuna starts to give reasons why he won't fight. And it's a while since I recapped these different reasons for fighting. So the second, so one of the reasons for not wanting to fight is seeing that there'll be suffering, that there will not be any enjoyment, there'll be no happiness coming from it. So here's the list here. So the first reason why he doesn't want to fight is compassion. It's like, I don't want to have to kill people that are my relatives, and understanding the pain that it would cause others, the widows and so on. And then this particular verse is the second reason, where he's thinking that, what enjoyment will I get from it? What's in it for me? He's thinking, I'll do all this, but will it make me happy? So this is somewhat selfish reason. Compassion is a great quality, and Prabhupada glorifies it in the purports of the Bhagavad-gita, that Arjuna is naturally compassionate as a Vaishnava. That Vaishnavas have that compassionate spirit. And this is a very good quality. That a Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi. He feels sad seeing others' unhappiness. And so this is the compassion of a Vaishnava that Arjuna is showing. But this particular verse, he's talking about what enjoyment will I get. This is much more of a selfishly motivated reason, not such a good thing. And then just quickly, the other reasons of the 5 reasons that are given for Arjuna not wanting to fight is he could see that this battle would lead to the destruction of the family. When the warriors were killed in battle, their wives would be left as widows, unprotected, and then this would lead to them being exploited and leading to unwanted family, Vana Sankara. When the family tradition is disrupted, it causes chaos in society, and we can see that today. There's the idea of families staying together is just like mythology today. A real family is not just a husband and wife and a couple of children, but it means an extended family of elders, grandparents. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So this is what a real family is like. And systematically over time, this has been broken down that, I don't want to stay with my in-laws. I want to go out and be by myself. And so then you have more and more this nuclear family. And nowadays we see that the whole idea of a family is just being disrupted altogether. It's quite common for people just to live together without being married. And, and then the whole concept of marriage, of a man and a woman coming together to raise children, to be good citizens and develop their love for Krishna, their Krishna consciousness. This is becoming untrendy. Nowadays the fashion, let a man and a man get married, or a woman and a woman get married, or let's just get married, but then we don't care if we're married, we'll still sleep around with other people, so-called open relationships. And this is just causing so much confusion and chaos in the children that are growing up. And we can see today there's a lot of mental health issues. The suicide rate with young people is really high. And it's because a lot of these things that were the foundation of our stable society, and therefore a stable peace of mind, have been all disrupted. And so therefore there's a lot of lack of security, and this leads to mental issues. So destruction of the family is one of the reasons. Fear of sinful reactions. Arjuna's thinking, actually, I don't know if this is right. Killing my teacher, my grandparents, that can't be right. There must be some bad reaction for that. And then finally it's like, I just don't know. The indecision. And in that state of indecision, he's not motivated to fight. He's sitting on the fence, as they say. Sitting on the fence is very uncomfortable, if you can visualize what that would be like. So Arjuna's in that situation. It's like, this way or that way. But once you make a decision, then you can really commit yourself and achieve something. If there's any doubt going into battle, you're not going to be successful. In fact, my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Chari Swami, he had a piece of paper on his desk, which was, I believe, one of the explorers of Antarctica or something. And it was saying that when you commit yourself completely to something, the whole universe adapts itself to helping you to achieve that goal. So it was interesting that he had that kept on his desk. And he had that on his desk at the time when he was translating the Chaitanya Charitamrita, purports of Prabhupada, back into Bengali, so to speak. And he also had it when he was making the TV series on the life of Srila Prabhupada. So we can see that he made up his mind, I'm doing this. I'm going to translate Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he completed that mission. Then he set his task again. He committed himself. I am going to make a TV series on Srila Prabhupada's life, and he did it. So this is a great example for us about the importance of commitment and not, being indecisive. And many times they say that it's better to make a wrong decision than it is to just do nothing and remain in indecision. Because if you make the wrong decision, then very quickly you'll be able to realize what's happening and you can adjust. Just like with they say that with a really big boat, like a cruise liner, like the Love Boat, the Pacific Princess, showing my age here. Anyway, one of these big boats that it takes a long time for it to turn, and you can't turn a boat that's sitting in the water. You can turn the steering wheel, nothing happens. It only turns when there's forward momentum, then you can turn it. And you would have noticed the same thing when you're in a car. You try to turn the wheel when you're not going anywhere. It's hard work, but as soon as you start to go forwards, you're able to turn the wheel. So in the same way that if we are committed and we take action, it allows us to get momentum and we can just adjust and make progress in that way. So this is about the indecision aspect of Arjuna's 5 reasons. So let's see off the top of my head if I can remember them again. The first one was compassion, very noble Vaishnava quality. Second one was enjoyment, which is a lower quality. Arjuna is representing himself as an ordinary man, so therefore some of these things may not seem so elevated, but we can all relate to them. The next thing is destruction of the family, sinful reactions, and just having doubt and indecision. So let's go back to the verse specifically that we're on here today and see what else we can find from here. Yeah, so this is a key point that Prabhupada's bringing out here. You can just get it to go up without that little bar on the top. Okay. So the trouble is that everybody thinks that they're the body, and therefore they make all their decisions based on the bodily platform of life. So here Arjuna is feeling the way that he's feeling and making a lot of his decisions or his arguments based on the idea that he'll be killing his relatives. It's all based on the bodily concept of life. And therefore we can see that Krishna's first instruction to Arjuna is that you're a fool, you're talking about the body. You have to think spiritually in terms of dharma, not just in terms of the body. And when I say dharma, I mean Sanatana Dharma, as well as the dharma of the world, like Varnashram Dharma. So, first point, you're not the body, you're the soul. So when you understand from the perspective of the soul, you act in a different way. Arjuna wasn't afraid of his own death in this battle. He was a Kshatriya, and Kshatriyas don't suffer from that problem. But what he was afraid of is, these reasons that he's given, that he'll incur sinful reactions, that he'll cause the death of others. And so Krishna explains to him, actually, you can't kill anyone. The soul cannot be killed by any weapon. And therefore, even though in the battle you're apparently killing, you're not killing, you're just ending the body. And because it's destined to happen, it's what I want, it's Krishna's arrangement to remove the burden of the earth, then he wants Arjuna to be the instrument for that righteous battle. So this is the first thing, is that when we think about the body, then it can lead us astray. Whereas if we think about doing Krishna's will, then we'll be guided in the correct way. Like I always bring up Star Wars, so let's bring up Star Wars again. And I always bring up the same example. But we can see the pivotal point of the Star Wars was when Anakin Skywalker was a good person, a little bit passionate, but he was a righteous type of person. But where he went astray was when he became overly attached to his wife, and he was afraid of her death. And because of being overly attached to that bodily conception that this is my wife and her body should not die, then it led him to the dark side and doing evil deeds, rather than having faith that by following goodness, everything would be, resolved properly. So this is what we also have to consider as well, that it's natural that we tend to favor our own family first, and we should certainly care for our families. But beyond that, we should be thinking of higher religious principles also. And this is why Krishna tells Arjuna, you're talking like a wise man, but you're not like speaking as a real Aryan. You're speaking like a fool, because you're all on the bodily conception of life. You're not speaking on the platform of understanding about the soul and how the body and soul are different. And the real person is the soul. So this is the key point of Bhagavad-gita, and it comes back again and again and again. That we should do what's best for ourselves, the soul, and what's best for others, the soul. So the earth was burdened with sinful people at that time. So Krishna arranged for this battle to relieve that burden. And also we hear in this particular purport that a person who dies on the battlefield following the right dharma, they get a positive destination in their next life. Particularly here, Krishna is saying that when Arjuna is fighting, under the orders of Krishna, if he were to die in that battle, immediately he'd get a auspicious destination. And even warriors on the other opposing army that were acting according to Dharma, according to Krishna's arrangement, like Bhishma Dev, even they get some benefit because of the following Dharma. Of course, those who are fighting directly under Krishna's instruction get the real benefit. And, Bhishma Dev's a very special case, that he saw Krishna at the time of his death, and he was meditating in devotion on Krishna's lotus feet. It's a little different from other warriors who are fighting, in ignorance. So when a Kshatriya dies in the battlefield, it's not a bad thing. It's not inauspicious. It's like, that's what a Kshatriya lives for. A Kshatriya lives to die on the battlefield, so to speak. Like Prabhupada said, I want to die on the battlefield with my boots on. Prabhupada didn't want to, just sort of retire in Vrindavan and hide away. He was like, no, I want to preach Krishna consciousness. This is the mission my spiritual master's given me. And I want to go out and I want to, do that till my last breath. And that's what he did. Even, in his last few hours, he was translating the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is his most powerful preaching tool. And he was doing it right up until, his last breath, basically. And he was showing the example for us all that we should never give up the mission of preaching. And there's no loss. See, Arjuna is seeing things as a loss. If I win the battle, I'm not even going to be happy. And killing them, I won't be happy. So he just can't see anything good coming out of it. Whereas in reality, even if he were to die, fighting this battle, because he's doing exactly what Krishna asked him to do, he'll immediately get the most auspicious destination. There's no loss at all. From a material point of view, like if you have a business, for example, and you're working so hard to make money, when you die, the money's gone, whether you're so-called successful in the business or not. But in Krishna consciousness, it's so wonderful that even if you fail, you're still successful. If you're attempting to serve Krishna and push his mission on, even if you materially were not able to convince anyone to become a devotee, even if we're not able to distribute any books, but if you're trying, Krishna will see the endeavor, and that's success. So there's everything auspicious by following Krishna's instruction. Just like it's saying here that a person in the renounced order of life who's absolutely devoted to spiritual culture gets the same destiny as a Kshatriya who dies in the battle under Krishna's direction. So we want to be devoted to spiritual culture in whatever dharma it is for us. So it could be a Kshatriya, that may be our role, or as a Brahmana, or a Sudra serving the other devotees. Whatever it is, if it's connected to Krishna consciousness, then our life can be successful. And so now it's saying here that, Arjuna doesn't even want to fight his enemies, let alone his relatives. He's lost his appetite, as Prabhupada's explaining here, lost his appetite to fight. And he's saying that someone who doesn't feel hungry doesn't like to cook. And in fact, I think it was Prabhupada who said that you should never trust a skinny cook. If someone's a real cook, then, he has a taste for food, and therefore will be a little bit plumpish. If someone's very skinny, then, it's something to watch out for. It's not a hard and fast rule, but I think it was funny, and I just remembered it when I read this. And so again here, Arjuna's thinking, okay, I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to do something else. But the thing is that Arjuna's nature won't allow him to do anything else. Even if he tries to become a renunciate, his nature as a Kshatriya will come out, and he'll just cause a disturbance. If he tries to live in brahmachari ashram, something, he's just going to try to control all the other brahmacharis, and it'll be frustrating for everybody. So instead, no, he just needs to man up and do his duty. And he may feel that, he won't get any material happiness out of that, but that's not the point. The point is that if he does what pleases Krishna, then it's the best thing for everybody. All right, well, I'll stop there. If anyone has any questions, please put it in the comments and I'll respond. Maybe not now, if we're not live, but I can read your comment and type a response. We can start a conversation like that. Otherwise, thank you for listening, and I hope that this inspires you to be committed to Krishna consciousness, no matter how difficult it may be. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.